Hello, my name is Casey. Thank you for watching the Writing Center's presentation on organizing an argument. An argumentative essay is an essay that takes a position on a topic and then defends that position. Argument is both a writing pattern and a purpose for writing. The first thing you're going to want to do before writing your essay is choose a topic/issue. Often your topic will be given to you by your assignment. However, if it's not given to you and you need to choose one, consider the following. Which subjects are you interested in, and which subjects are you allowed to write about? Once you have a subject, think about these things. Which issue within the subject do you want to address? Has the issue been settled? And will you be able to find enough to write about? A basic outline for an argument is first an introduction, which will include a background/hook and your thesis statement. Then your body paragraphs. These are going to be your supporting reasons with examples and explanation. And then your conclusion, which is a review of what was said and a final thought. Your introduction will have a background or a hook. Different professors and assignments will require different types of introductory material. Professors who prefer background information often demand that the introduction give the current state of the conversation about the issue you will be discussing. Professors who prefer an introductory hook often demand an engaging anecdote or example that catches the reader's attention while leading into the argument you will make. And then, of course, at the end of your introduction, you will have a thesis. There are some essential ingredients for an awesome thesis. These are a subject plus opinion plus main supporting reasons. Developing a thesis at the beginning in order to articulate a clear and powerful argument will alleviate frustration and mess in the writing process. A first point when drafting a thesis is to keep the argument narrow within your thesis, not broad. Illegal drug use is detrimental because it encourages gang violence. This is an example of a narrow thesis because it does not just state that illegal drug use is detrimental, but it gives a reason for why it would be detrimental. Drug use is detrimental to society. This is an example of a broad thesis. You can see the difference between this and the former one because in the second example of a broad thesis, it does not give any type of specific explanation of what causes drug use to be detrimental. A second point when drafting a thesis is to develop a debatable argument, not an argument that cannot be argued objectively. At least 25% of the federal budget should be spent on limiting pollution. This is an example of a debatable argument. Other people might believe that more or less of a percentage should be spent for this particular issue. Pollution is bad for the environment. This would be an example of an irrefutable argument. It is not likely that anyone would argue against you and say that pollution is good for the environment. A third point when drafting a thesis is to decide on a number of supporting reasons appropriate to the length of your argument. Illegal drug use is harmful to communities because it encourages gang violence, contributes to poor parenting, and leads to the breakup of families. Here there are 3 supporting reasons to the argument. This will also contribute to making your thesis narrow rather than broad. Our working thesis will include these 3 main points: a limited subject, plus a debatable opinion, plus main reasons. So here is an example of what we get when we devise our thesis. At least 25% of the federal budget should be spent on helping upgrade businesses to clean technologies, researching renewable energy sources, and planting more trees in order to control or eliminate pollution. Body paragraphs should be organized in the manner you think will be most persuasive to your audience and should be reflected in your thesis. Possibilities include chronologically, the strength of points, and you could do strongest to weakest or weakest to strongest, or simple to complex. Important aspects of all body paragraphs are a controlling idea, a clear topic sentence, specific evidence, examples, or supporting detail, analysis/explanation, and transitions between sentences and paragraphs. Here are some considerations for your body paragraphs. Different body paragraphs might function differently and need to be in different places. A supporting reason paragraph, a clarification paragraph, which would add additional clarification to a point made in a previous paragraph, and a counter-argument paragraph. This would present an argument against your argument. It would provide your stance against the counter-argument, which would be called a rebuttal. Depending on the length of your paper, the role of the conclusion might change. In a short paper, the conclusion might briefly summarize the main argument of the paper, reaffirm the thesis, and give a final thought. In a longer paper, the conclusion might remind the audience of the major points discussed, reaffirm thesis in light of these supporting reasons, and give a final thought. And here are some general principles when writing. Your writing should always be organized with your audience in mind. Make sure that all major points of an essay are addressed in the introduction. Every paragraph deserves a clear topic sentence. This should be the first sentence of the paragraph, and everything following in that paragraph should clearly relate to that topic sentence. Make sure that you clearly transition between ideas, that you stay on topic, and don't bring up new support in the conclusion. Any new support should be taking place in the body paragraphs. Remember that the conclusion is a place for you to remind the reader of what you've already talked about and give your final thoughts, not add in a new element of the argument. Thank you for watching, and if you have any questions about organization in your essays, you can come see us at the Writing Center in W114.